Good morning from Raleigh, North Carolina. I am at Cedar Hills Park, home of a pretty good disc golf course. Matter of fact, apparently they're doing disc golf right now. I'm hoping they don't hit me. Some of these fields have gotten pretty close. But anyway, so I wanted to get back, if you will, to the Adventures of Sam Spade. I think the last time we talked, well, you weren't talking at all. No, you might not even be listening. but the last time that I talked, I had talked about, I believe, Captain Hugh Sherry and the fact that the radio show had actually borrowed Captain Sherry from, if you will, the short stories, the Continental Op, from the Continental Op, who was a detective. This Continental Op, if you will, this one particularly was based in San Francisco, although there were other Continental Ops who were, in other places like New York City and, and other cities of the like. Continental operative. But anyway, basic, if you will, detectives. And so I brought up the fact, if you will, that this Continental Op was, that Captain Sherry came from, if you will, the Continental Op. Well, and I figured, you know what, let me look a little bit more into these Continental Op stories. And so, wound up picking up, I believe, an anthology known as a collection of stories known as the 10th Clue. 10th spelled like 10th, Clue spelled C-L-E-W. Not sure why they spelled it like that. But at any rate, and let me just check it out. I got to the second story, and man, and some of you may already be familiar with this, so so humor a person who just caught on, if that is the case. But not only, if you will, did the Adventures of Sam Spade borrow at least what appears to be the main antagonist, if you will, for the show, but it also borrowed at least one story, probably several, because the Continental Op is a collection of stories, and I wouldn't be surprised if they, went into the well several times. But I think the story that I am thinking of is Night Shots. It is the second story from the 10th Clue in other stories. And I'll be if Night Shots and the Atom Fig Caper, which came out, I believe, October 5th, 1947. I'll be if there's some differences, but basically it's the same story. Of course, it's called Atom Fig Caper because in the radio version, because Adam Fig who's a servant, if you will, of, I believe the man's name is Exxon. He's a servant of a man named Exxon, and basically a dying man named Exxon, and he presents the problem, to Sam Spade, and gives him the money and so on and so forth. Well, probably one difference is that the in the Continental Op, well, obviously it's the Continental Op, right? I mean, and not Sam Spade, but also the person who's actually presenting the problem to Sam Spade, and matter of fact, actually, not Sam Spade, but Continental Op. The Continental Op is actually is actually visiting, the place. So he's actually happening upon them, not the other way around. And instead of the Fig bringing this up, and by the way, in the radio show, it's a son, but in the Continental Op, probably the person who's concerned is a son-in-law who just wants to make sure that his wife, who is the daughter of Exxon, in this case it's a daughter, the daughter of Exxon knows that, he's exercised every option he could to make sure this guy was okay. Well, these stories are very, very, they even borrow some words, like, if hating wasn't an option, for example. So they borrow quite, I don't know, it's more than borrowing. It's basically the same story with some exceptions. Now, probably one of the other exceptions that comes from this, and maybe this is a big exception, is the fact that Captain Sherry was in the radio version, and Captain Sherry's trying to drug. And, he gets a nurse to try to drug, if you will, Exxon. And Exxon's a pretty violent guy, if you will, in the show. He's like, trying to beat the living tarnation, if you will, out of the nurse in the radio show. But anyway, there's no Captain Sherry and there's no Marcus. Now, interestingly enough, this is also the first time I ever heard, if you will, of Sam Spade. It's the first radio show of Sam Spade that I'm familiar with. So, so I actually come in, under Captain Sherry and Marcus. But it's interesting, hopefully you can get a listen to and see just the interesting similarities. Ain't similarities. It's the same daggum thing, with the exception that there's no Captain Sherry and no Marcus, and instead of a son, a son-in-law. But other than that, it's the same story. It's actually a pretty good story. Anyway, that's all I got. Take care and have a wonderful day or night. Man, these folks are enjoying themselves on this Frisbee discourse. Boy, they're having a great time. And they haven't hit me yet. Although, like I said, one person was pretty close. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.